Hello, nice to see you. I hope you're enjoying the cold Christmas holiday festive seasons. I am. I'm not at work, so I've got time to read, and that is how I have recently completed Logan's Run. Far from the first time, I might add. I have read it many, many times, in fact. And this book, there's a lot here. As the kids like to say, there's a lot to unpack. So it was written by William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson. It was first published in 1967, I believe, making it just a little bit older than me. This is not my first copy. My first copy had the more traditional Logan's Run and that very 70s cover that was attached to the science fiction classic starring Michael York and Jenny Agutter. That came out in 1970 or possibly 1976, depending on which internet you are indulging in. And that first copy that I had, which I obtained in my childhood, slowly fell apart from overreading, and then I got this one. What the two covers do have in common is that neither of them seem to have any artist credited. They both seem to just be written as ties in with the MGM film, which was very popular and did very well and was quite famous. William F. Nolan is actually primarily known for that, and in 1977 he wrote a second one in the Logan series, which I gather he hadn't ever planned to do. Logan's World, I think it was called, and I used to have that, and I have read that, but it was a long time ago. And I remember it probably as poorly as I remembered this one before I picked it up. Now, the reason I picked up a reread, aside from the fact that it's been well over a decade, probably more like 2 since I last read it, so I was due a reread anyway, didn't remember it terribly well. But the other thing is, on the YouTubes, I happened to see a video about the film, which reminded me of how good the film really was. It was a great 70s film, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Even though I saw it considerably after I read the book, I've always been able to enjoy both. They are, however, very different things. Now, William F. Nolan was quite a prolific, and I would go so far as to say very influential author. He's got a long list of things that he wrote, many of them science fiction, and he sounds like he was a very humble man. He died in 2021, and his comment about his fame due to Logan's Run is mostly, I'm just astonished that I'm famous at all. So, as well as his name, we've also got George Clayton Johnson on the cover, another author that he's still alive. He's also got a large number of credits to his name. He did more editing, I believe, than Nolan did. In any case, what this film did, I think, for the book was popularize the story, and that's good. What it did for this book that wasn't as good was it made everyone who'd seen the movie, sorry, bird, think that they actually knew what the book was about. And the book is much more dark, much more elaborate, and far more political and social in commentary than the film was. I don't know what he wants. I think he wants a cooler day. It's hot here. Hang on, let's see. How about this? Would you like this or that? Okay, so Logan's Run, as I was saying before I got interrupted by Bird, is a dark, mature, elaborate book. Not the film. The film is a really fun, well done, really quite sweeping 70s film that did some really amazing things in terms of cinematography and ran out of budget, if I understand it correctly. I'll link the film, the YouTube that I saw about it recently, if I can find it again. But the book exceeds it. You can't help having Michael York's very classic face attached to your character of Logan inside your head, though that wasn't the way I imagined him when I first read it. It does fit in remarkably well with the character. So we're talking about the far future of 2112, 21 something. And have I written down the date it's set in? I wish I had, but no, I didn't. And something, before you even get into the plot, something that Nolan and Clayton Johnson did that is really, really great is their dedication. Their dedication is fantastic. And to all the wild friends we grew up with and who were with us when we wrote this book, to Frankenstein and Mickey Mouse, to Fu Manchu, Long John Silver, Tom Mix and Black Jones, to Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and it goes on, and to Papa Hemingway, Mickey Spillane and Popeye the Sailor Man, and it goes on to the next page. I think the last one is going to be my favourite and the favourite of many other people reading it. To astonishing, amazing, fantastic, startling, unknown galaxy, weird tales, planet stories, Black Mask and the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. To Riesling, Blind Singer, The Spaceways, and With Love to the Green Hills of Earth. I love that credit to Heinlein there because Heinlein was so important, and you've got this long list. There's something for every flavour of geek and science fiction addict in there. Now, in the introduction, before that, it talks about it was a nightmare society, a world of the cubs, rebel hipsters drugged to a point of frenzy, of a vast underwater city, and more. And it creates a sense of a level of science fiction that isn't reflected by the movie, or more, perhaps more accurately, it isn't reflected by the memory that people tend to have of the movie. It also talks about how the world that we're in 21 whatever, was seeded. The seeds of the Little War were planted in a restless summer during the mid-1960s, with sit-ins and student demonstrations as youth tested its strength. By the early 1970s, over 75% of the people living on Earth were under 21 years of age, and then it exceeded that and grew, and in year 2000 critical mass. None of that, of course, has occurred. But they're envisaging the way in which this world was built was fantastic. So in 2116, let's assume, we have got a situation where you can't live past the age of 21. The society has got resemblances to a Brave New World, where children don't grow up in families, they grow up in mechanized creche, and at a certain stage they have this crystal embedded in their palm. The crystal changes color every 7 years, if I remember correctly. It starts off as a yellow, childhood yellow. At the age of 7, I believe it turns to blue, and then 14 it turns to red, and you're fully adult and you have to earn your living kind of ish, not too badly. And then no one seems to have birthdays or know their accurate age, but these adults live their life, and then one day the red crystal in their palm starts blinking on and off, black and red, and that is their last day. They've got one day, 24 hours before they turn 21, and when they turn 21, before they turn 21, they have to report to a sleep station, sleep shop for processing, where you basically get anesthetized using happy gas, happy ending, as it were. Sorry, I had to say that. Possibly with a whole heap of dreams of the past, as we see in a scene later in the book. But not every human reports to the sleep shop as planned. Many try to run when their hand crystal goes black, or while it's still blinking, they try to escape. And these people are pursued by the likes of Logan. Logan, as a child, all he wanted to do was become a DS, are they called? They're called D something. Anyway, it's a type of policing where they wear black, they're trained in martial arts and other things, and they have guns that are keyed into their own personal crystal, I believe, though it could be something else physical, and they chase runners. And basically they kill the runners before they can escape. It's a complex society. And though all of this is depicted in the movie as kind of thrillery and exciting and 60s-ish, and the carousel on which people die is completely different in the movie to the sleep parlors in the book, the darkness is there and it's pretty strong. So Logan is an adult. His flower is red. He's been an experienced, what is it, DS, sleep something or other man, whatever it is. He's been that for a long time. But at the beginning of this book, he's clearly frustrated and DS, there we go, deep sleep man, or the Sandman, as they're known colloquially. He's clearly unsettled with his society. He goes through some of the pleasure routines, to the palaces, he does the things, but he's dissatisfied and uneasy. He then reports to work. He clocks out his gun, he clocks in, and he's told that the next runner is his, and he pursues this runner who is trying to escape him and other DS Sandmen. He has a backup by the name of Francis. Francis is portrayed as one of the most efficient, one of the most professional and experienced Sandmen, who is a bit scary even to other Sandmen in his own right. So Logan's chasing this runner, and this runner is smart. He doesn't make straight for the maze, clearly aware that there's cameras in there that will pick him up. He doesn't go to any of the routine things that runners do. He's clearly quite practiced, and he's got a concept of what he's doing. Logan pursues him, and eventually he finds out he's going into Cathedral. He calls for backup. The backup is Francis, and the backup arrives. But the runner, Doyle, has crossed the bridge, and as soon as he crossed the bridge, he's out of the land of normal society and into the area where the Cubs rule. So you've got this group of even younger people who have formed their own illicit society, and very violent one, in which they take these drugs, I think it's called muscle or something, and they basically cut down Doyle, which looks bad for the Sandman. They're meant to take him down, not let them be taken down by Cubs or other illegals. But Logan reaches Doyle before he dies, and he finds a silver key, and the last word that Doyle says before he dies is sanctuary. Now, sanctuary is a myth. It doesn't exist, but a lot of people who run believe that if they run far enough or fast enough, they will find this place where people are allowed to grow up into adulthood, where society is quite different, where it isn't just this juvenile society run by computers. And Doyle clearly believed in this quite strongly, and that unsettles Logan. Now, what I don't believe goes into the movie is that Logan then... Oh no, don't do that, you little twerp. Logan then gets his crystal flashing on and off. It's his last day. On his last day, and he feels this great sense of ennui, of meaningless, and he decides that his last day is going to mean something, and he will be remembered. And what he's going to do is he's going to use this key that he got off Doyle to pursue sanctuary, and if this is real, or if there's a real escape route, he will hunt them down, and that will be his last day event. Most people go for pleasure, drugs, sex, whatever. He's going to hunt down these illegals. He will be the Sandman to be remembered. And so he starts doing that, and he's got the key, and he's got a set of clues. So he starts following these clues, and they lead him to a chop shop, a dock, who is a mechanic, and he's got this really, really scary machine, which he's going to use to change Logan's face. Why exactly they need to do that when the face isn't what the Sandman pursue, I don't know. But that is apparently part of the whole Sanctuary run. And in this great, quite scary scene, Logan is discovered. He's revealed as a Sandman because he still has a Sandman gun on him. It's a strange gun. It's not a modern pellet shooting gun. It's got a range of charges, including a tangleweb, a homer. Once you get the homer on an individual, they can't escape, and that's the end of them. Now, as Logan is escaping this area, he comes across another room in which a girl is just waking up after she's had her changes done, and she calls him Doyle. This is Jessica 6. She's the sister of the runner from whom he got the key, and he initially goes along with her when she claims he's Doyle, and they start to escape together. For such a small book, I mean, it's a normal science fiction-y length, 144 pages. There is a lot packed in here, and most of what it does very well indeed. You've got multiple escape scenes. You've got multiple views of this strange world, 2116 or whenever, where you've got this completely different scenario in which people are living in, and it is well written. It is well plotted. It is well written. The concepts in it are strong, far stronger than you would expect from the movie, perhaps. Though I'm not saying the movie is bad. Like I said, I enjoyed it. But the dystopian world that is packed into this novel exceeds the film in its complexity. And I do think it's a little bit of a shame that I'm not hearing anyone talking about Logan's Run, the book. I think it deserves to be talked about more. There's concepts in here that I particularly enjoyed, one of which is my favourite scene, page 51, is the concept of Molly. This is this huge undersea food processing plant that was developed at some stage. Men, women and children lived on there. So clearly not the 21s, clearly not quite the world Logan is inhabited. It was used to bring food out of the sea because more protein was needed. And the description of this underwater facility and the pressures of the ocean finally overcoming it at the scenes are fantastic. And Logan and Jessica end up there for a while, and this heaving, moaning under-ocean facility that's guarded by this hormonally mutated man called Whale. It's fantastic. Epic writing. Could have had a whole story there quite happily. Now, it's worth mentioning too, Logan as a character is great. He is an anti-hero, or a bad guy, if you will, for the majority of this movie, because his whole goal is essentially to betray his companion Jessica 6 by revealing Sanctuary to the authorities. Killing off Ballard, who's meant to be the old man who's facilitating this Sanctuary. But throughout his last day, and then finally his crystal goes black and he hasn't found it, we've got this very great ambiguity. Now, remembering that this man is just 21, he comes across as far more mature than you would expect, far more mature than some fully adult characters that you can see in novels today, like the one I just read, for example. But this maturity is coupled with a very unquestioning attitude to the world around him. And without that sort of unquestioning attitude, you couldn't really have this book as it stands, because Logan accepts everything about his world that is right, and he never really questions any of it. He falls into the position of a rebel. He falls into the pursuit of Sanctuary. He falls into who he is. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Shoulder? Shoulders are great. No. Shoulders are not great, clearly, if you're a small-feathered dinosaur. Yes, so the character of Logan, I can see why some people would consider him a bit flat, but I don't see it that way. He is a character that works very well for the role, and without that lack of ambiguity about him, I don't think this novel could go forward as well. In the background, we've got Francis, his erstwhile partner and legendary Sandman, who is hunting him and Jessica down. And we've got these little intervals of, where are we going? I don't care. You have these little intervals. The beginning of each chapter is this small description of the pursuit of where Francis is at, where he's following them. And then you dive into the chase scene that Logan and Jessica 6 are running through. Ah yes, there's another standout scene for me was around page 81 when Logan and Jessica are trapped inside this massive statue. This massive statue of Crazy Horse, who was apparently maybe a Native American character, I'm going to guess. And I don't know, I don't think there's really a mountain-sized, hollowed-out carving of Crazy Horse, but in this book there is, and this has become the living computer center of all the computers from all over the USA, we assume, doesn't mention other countries, have been gathered in here. And you've got a chase scene that is absolutely fantastic in there. So, without spoiling anything, I can't really go any further. Obviously, Logan does make it through to live for the next book, because I've already told you there's a second one, Logan's World. But the way in which he does that is fascinating. Aside from the thriller part, this slow development of his moral ambiguity turns into a fight for survival, even though he didn't initially believe that anyone should live over 21. The whole way this society couches a runner as a bad guy who's trying to cheat the system, and sources that in the roots of the small rebellion when the youth rebelled against the elder leaders. None of this is thrown at you, and none of this is info dumped, by the way. It starts off as a thrilling, exciting science fiction story. And here I'm going to thoroughly disagree with David Pringle, who is a editor of science fiction, and I'm pretty sure he's the one that wrote the 100 science fiction books you should read before you die, or whatever. I know a couple of people that I follow over in the UK are going through that book at the moment, not always with great results. David Pringle did not rate this book highly. He said it was just a thrilling science fiction. He said it was an okay science fiction. Oh, there we go. David Pringle gave Logan's Run 2 stars out of 4 and praised the novel as a good SF thriller. And he also stated it was superior to the film version. I think that's a very, very shallow and one-sided attitude towards this book. Yes, it is a good science fiction thriller, but it's so much more than that. It's got so many ambiguities and social debates in there that I think make it exceed a SF thriller in every way. So, thank you for bearing through the Screaming Dinosaur, if you're still there, to listen to my review for Logan's Run. It was a spectacular reread that I'm very glad that I did. And I do recommend, if you're looking for the older science fiction books that people aren't really talking about, maybe consider Logan's Run by William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson. I feel for the intelligent science fiction reader of today, it is not going to disappoint. And in any case, whether it's this one or not, read good books. Bye.